All right, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome aboard to our weekly recap. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of Gar Capital. Glad to be with you this week and weekend and every weekend when we do our weekly recaps. It's great to have you guys on board watching this video. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos as well. And then on Monday, we do have our morning note, and that's on every market day at 9 a.m. One quick note on Tuesday is Passover, the Passover holiday. So possibly we get lower than expected volumes. Who knows? But again, it's good to have that heads up. Other than that, there's no other major holidays as we're rounding up the month. April 21st right now. So the last trading day of April will be next Tuesday, the 30th. So this is the last full week of the month. Let's see how we round it out. The week last week was not easy in terms of the price action. So we're going to go ahead and first things first, I want to recap the week in terms of our signals. So that's what I want to do. Let's bring this up. We're going to go to premium signals. And we're going to scroll down. Our streak is over, ended up at 22. Um, Kind of a mixed reaction because we did catch 3 this week. So again, you could add that and be 25, but I'm gonna call it what it is. The first 3, DraftKings was up 28% and reversed. At 49.97, we were almost in the money. The good news is that we traded it to the downside and we got as high as 30%, 25%. So something, I mean, it didn't actually fully recover, unfortunately, but at least we got something out of it. Apple, 185 calls, again, tech reversed. Bitcoin reversed with the Israeli missile strikes that weekend. We were, I think, 70,000 on Bitcoin, and it just collapsed down to like 62. That's all she wrote on Bitcoin in that sense of the trade because we got expired on. So these are the first losses of the month. It's the first losses that we've had since February 23rd. So I am proud of the work, but it's back to starting a new streak. And we did okay this week, a mixed. We caught Delta, we caught TQQ, hit as high as 55% on the put side, and we hit DraftKings as well. I signaled to close DraftKings just so everyone can get that W because I have this feeling this week that we're going to bounce. So let's get to it. Dow futures are up 92, the Nasdaq's up 73, the S&P is up 14, and Russell's up 0.42%. Sometimes things just get oversold, just kind of how it goes. So let's look at the S&P 500 futures. Look at the daily, the 100-day moving average from the time being now. From now moving forward, this is your support. And this is your resistance, the 50. We're going to stay sandwiched more than likely in between those two moving averages for the time being. Why do I say that? Volumes tend to drift down in May. We know the saying, sell in May and go away. So what I expect us is to bounce and hold that support. But I wouldn't expect miracles either until June or so. Next week, we do have the FOMC. I don't expect a rate cut. I don't expect a rate hike. So June, I think, is the first really expectation that Goldman Sachs had for a rate cut. So that's probably the time where the market will be a little more on edge. But for this meeting next week, the FOMC, not the week coming up, but the week after, the week of the 1st, May 1st, that's when I think the market will get a little more jittery. I think we're going to get somewhat of a reprieve, kind of a dead cat bounce, more consolidation than anything else. We're at lowest RSIs, guys, since the lows of October. This is just what it is. Sometimes it just spills over. And we have earnings this week, so we got some catalysts. We don't have any Fed speakers, so that's good news. But again, for the time being, we're going to use this blue line, that 100-day moving average, as our support. I expected this move to happen in May, this breakdown of this trend line. I thought we would get that retest, but we fell all the way down, and we took advantage with futures. We took advantage with options with the TQQ puts. So, really just finding the trends and see if they break and finding the patterns. And as of right now, for the time being, again, 49.70, that's going to be our stop. I am long on futures right now. I do expect to bounce. So we'll see what we get. But for the time being, 51.55 will be our resistance moving forward. Looking at NASDAQ here, we broke that 100-day moving average. So let's see if we can reclaim that. That's really a lot of NVIDIA, but still an upward trend. I mean, nothing in that sense has been negated. If things were to really spill over, you're talking about, 16,401 to 200 day. And if that breaks down, then 15,284, and we can go on and forward to for really kind of broadly speaking in terms of the Nasdaq, more than likely, if we have some kind of downside, let's say S&P breaks that 100-day moving average, then we need to be targeting, excuse me, 16,770. That would be the retest of the all-time high breakout that we had from 2021 in November, I believe. And again, that would be extremely normal. So again, if we break down more, let's say we break that 100-day in S&P, the Nasdaq will probably lead us lower, and then we have our target right here. So I do expect us to get a bounce from oversold conditions. We're not oversold in the weekly, but if you take a look at the daily, we're at the most oversold point that we've been on since September of, I believe, 2022, and then we just consolidated. We had a little slight bounce in the beginning, and then we kind of just drifted wrong. So we'll see if there's going to be additional weakness in tech, even though we do have a lot of earnings coming. And we'll play by ear. But Tuesday, with Passover being that day, who knows if that volume drips away to being more to the lower side. Maybe we get additional selling. But I do expect personally us to get a bounce just for the fact that some kind of relief bounce. I don't think a change in trend, but we'll take advantage of it, in my opinion. That's what I think. Let's take a look at some of the names I'm watching. This is going to be the public watch list for the blog. Let's take a look at it. We have Tesla earnings coming this week, and I think it's time for the bounce. So how do we play it? Right now, we're going to have cheap calls. Relatively speaking, the IAV is going to be juiced. So I like the counter trade here. We'll keep 141.53 as our support. If that breaks down, guys, we can go as low as 101 at that point. But I think we're overdone. I think we're going to go ahead and bounce. This is the same setup to the downside. Again, we talked about this green line bounce. I was expecting that. We got a couple of gaps to fill now. I kind of like more upside. So again, if we can break above 155 with time, I want to fill this gap here around 185. Maybe we can buy 185 calls for longer term expiry. I know it's a way OTM, but I think all the bad news is already baked in with Tesla. The kind of front running all those discounts. Again, let's see if that holds up with earnings, but I expect a bounce in Tesla. We don't have to trade it, but I want to keep an eye on it. Again, above 155, we'll see about some OTM calls, but that's going to be my target. If we break below 140, 153, it's a good night. We're going to short this thing to 101. But I think this is Tesla's last chance. I think Tesla does break. Tesla bounces back, does not break. It'll hold 140, 153. And then I think we're on the road back to around 186. If we're lucky, we can get this gap fill at 206. After that, it could be range bound for a bit. But looks like turnaround for Tesla, in my opinion. We'll see if that actually holds up. Let's take a look at Spotify. They also report earnings. So this is kind of a focused on earnings. So let's go to the weekly chart. I think we're at a double top on Spotify. So I think we're going to pull back below 270.15. 237 is your 20-week moving average. You can buy time on this. You would think, oh, this hasn't broken any trend. I think that will pull back a little more. If we can below 270, we need to recapture it. The gap was just filled. If that sinks a little lower, you have a gap to fill here at 225. Maybe the 225 puts if we can buy some time as well. So I expect to pull back on Spotify just for the fact that if we look in the weekly, you're looking like at a possible double top. If I expand it out a little more, again, this resistance right here, this zone was rejected. So the question remains, can it break out of it? Who knows? But I don't see it. So again, I see this pull back. Again, I don't have any numbers on Spotify in terms of their earnings, but that's what I'm expecting anyways. Let's take a look at Meta. Meta's my next one here. Meta reports as well. So below 455, broke down from this upward trend line. Below 455, we have a gap to fill at 403. That's what I'm looking for. That money level of 400. Buying some time. I'm going to keep an eye out there and see if there's any kind of big OTM puts. Maybe for June, maybe for July. Who knows? It's going to be expensive, possibly. But if we go out of the money, we will see. But that's a big earnings gap there. And with that breakdown of this trend line, if we break down below 455, this is going to come. So this more than likely, if there were to pull back, would be after earnings. So I don't expect a meltdown, but a pullback absolutely on Meta, and it's been performing well. But just again, breaking down a trend here. We just have one earnings gap to fill, And if we get that, it's going to be lovely if we can short it. The question is it affordable? I mean, can we signal out this trade? I don't want to send out anything too expensive. So worst case scenario, we'll find a way in terms of TQs or QQQ or NASDAQ futures one way or another. So pretty much kind of to sum up everything, I do expect us to have some kind of bounce here. And with that being said, I wouldn't get too excited until we're above the 50-day. I have one more thing to show you guys. XOM, you do have a setup of a cup and handle. I sent this as well as a signal, and it was also a freebie, the 125 calls. Just want to give everyone the heads up. Let's take a look at it. Let's see, XOM. I should have brought it up before. Let's see, we talked about XOM. Here you go. Here's the freebie. So June 21, 125 calls are down 7%. 4-hour chart, lovely cup and handle formation. For context, look at the Google chart on the daily. We're going to look at that together. So let's see it. Okay, let's go to the 4-hour chart on XOM. Nice cup, nice handle, beautiful bounce. Very textbook. Look at Google had the same thing. See if I can find it. Was it in the weekly? Yeah, see, weekly cup. See kind of the cup here. So from left down to right, got to this point, right? That's your recent highs, your local highs, the pullback, and then the pop higher. And that's what we're looking for XOM. Just a very nice cup and handle formation. Energy outperformed this week. So we'll see if tech continues to slide, but I like XOM. I like energy moving forward. Crude oil is flat right now. So again, Tesla is going to be something that I'm going to be watching. So is Spotify, and so is Meta. Let's take a look at what we do have coming up in terms of economic data. We have services PMI, manufacturing PMI on Tuesday. Again, that's Passover. We also have new home sales, durable goods orders on Wednesday, um, GDP on Thursday. Initial jobless claims, we always have that every Thursday. Pending home sales at 10 a.m. And then PCE. PCE is the personal consumption expenditure index. So this includes rent. This is the inflationary gauge that's preferred by the Fed, apparently, more than CPI, which is the consumer price index. So we'll see if that number, if it's hotter than expected, of course, the expectation is no more rate cuts, or we're not going to get rate cuts immediately. But that's where we are pretty much day to day. I mean, the Fed will find a way to let you know what they're thinking, and it's a poker game out there. Let's take a look at this week's poll. This weekend's poll here it is, excuse me. How does the S&P 500 perform this week? Simple enough. So we put this on the blog ever so often. And higher leads the way 64%. 37 voters say that the market will bounce this week, with 31% saying, nope, we're going to go lower. And 3 voters are just enjoying the show with their popcorn. I'm going to lean with the 37 voters. I agree. So I'm going to go ahead and vote. 38 votes. 64% say that the S&P 500 will bounce this week. I do expect May weakness. I think the weakness comes from consolidation, meaning that we're probably just going to get some choppiness in the beginning of May as we get into a summer rally. So are we ready for a dip buy? Are we ready to take a look at what's out there? That remains to be seen. I am long on futures, so we'll keep an eye as we go along in terms of the market movement throughout the evening. We are now up 100 points on the Dow. Any kind of bounce here, guys, is to be expected. So we will see what we get. Sometimes we just get oversold. And that's really it. So we'll see what we get. I feel a new streak coming on. All right, we're going to get started on a new one. I want to break the record of 22. The next one is 23. It's one of my favorite numbers. We'll see if we get there. And we'll catch you guys on Monday for the morning note. See how overnight the market does. And we'll go from there. Cheers, all.